point of round one approaches. 16 drivers who look to continue a title pursuit as the road trip takes the field up to the 35-year-old Magic Mile. Live from New Hampshire, the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to the 14th race of the 4th season of the SAAC Cup Series and the second race of the Eliminator Chase's opening round. Up in the Northeast, maybe some lobster on the way. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight at this Magic Mile. We're alongside Francisco Bacallao and Nate Polite in the booth. I am Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, you and Nate covered this in Darlington last week. The frenetic energy of what has changed between the end of the regular season several weeks ago and then the beginning of this Eliminator Chase fight for the championship that began at the track Too Tough to Tame. Now we go to another track that's relatively hard to master. Relatively short banking here in New Hampshire and a brand new track on the schedule that we will only see once. And Nate, for what it is worth for those drivers still fighting for a SAAC Cup Series championship in this Eliminator Chase, Darlington was a big swing for a lot of drivers. Some of them were successful. Some of the stories were on the other end of the spectrum. They're going to have to really get their backs off of the wall at New Hampshire. This middle race of this first round is going to be very important. It's that version of a so-called drop week for a lot of those guys who have struggled maybe in this first round at Darlington. They're going to hope that New Hampshire is just a little bit better than what it was at the track Too Tough to Tame, but that's the gap that we'll watch all night long. Again, it's only a middle race in this opening round. After the third race at Road America next week, that's when we eliminate this bottom four. So all of these guys, including Trevor Haley, really need to get themselves up. It doesn't matter if you win, you need to have the most points better than everyone else in the field in order to advance. Well, a quick look at what happened last week at the virtual Darlington Raceway. I wasn't there for the coverage, but of course I have my saviors alongside myself. Francisco and Nate, you guys got to watch this race. How did this unfold? Seemed very chaotic, Francisco, even from the drop of the green flag.
Taking the lead, but shortly thereafter, Dahari was able to take it right back, and this would be a part of the long run during the race as they were pulling away from everybody, but that wouldn't last too much longer. Shortly after this pass by Dahari to take the lead back, the caution flag would wave for the first time in the night for Austin Doran, who was struggling on old tires, and let me just tell you, that opened up the floodgates in this race, because ultimately it was going to be pit road that played a huge factor in this race from here on out.
And Nate, a lot of mistakes from Darlington. There's Austin Doran getting sideways off the corner. We would see him later in the event, even though he had this spill in the midway portion of the race. Pit stops mattered a lot. 2-tire call from Moreno. He would go out. Dahari would end up with a penalty on the pit lane, so he would have to give up all of the track position, but things got really lively in the middle of the pack, especially past halfway.
It's the track Too Tough to Tame for a reason, and I talked all race. You can't really fit two guys side by side. We saw an example of it there with Jason Radchcott getting in the wall with Andretti Robinson. Here's another one of these restarts, and these got chaotic too. This one, James Thurston, he started to flex his muscle after a penalty to Ethan Fonseca Moreno right after the penalty to Dahari. But you see the chaos right there. Once again, Nicholas Baumann, Dahari involved just a little bit. That almost ended his race. He was able to actually rally and finish 8th.
And Dahari, the two-time winner this season, really didn't have a great journey at Darlington. He was almost near every single crash that we saw in that race. There's Shockey Tarpley, driver who is fighting to stay alive in the top 16 and trying to be above that cut line, ended up in the incident. Then off the restart, inside those final few laps, Moreno gets sideways. There's a crash that happens right about here at the exit of turn 2. And once again, it's that B-movie Chevrolet of Dahari that ends up involved. He's looking, of course, for a much better comeback tonight from the Magic Mile in New Hampshire. And then that led us to the final few laps of the race. Final restarts coming your way inside the final 5 or so laps. James Thurston was able to scurry away, and that's exactly how he would end up being up at the front. But it would take some fighting. Stephen Maggio and company trying to get around, and then Austin Doran just showing up to the scene at the exit of turn 2, pointing his way to the bottom, having a shot at the lead, dicing into turn 3, and unfortunately just a little bit too late on the shot. Thurston was able to power up high, make the move back on the white flag lap, and then be able to move on through to get his second victory of the SAAC Cup Series in season number 4. Won the road course at Portland International Raceway earlier on this season, now with a playoff spoiler victory. Not one of those drivers a part of the Eliminator chase. So Thurston grabs his second victory. Doran just a little bit too short when it all came down to the end and to the flag. Thurston ends up winning and tries to carry that momentum into this New Hampshire Motor Speedway race. So as the drivers have taken behind the iRacing official pace car, it is our time to take you through our Charlie Byer Photography starting grid for the 14th race of the SAAC Cup Series in Season 4 and this pivotal second race of the Eliminator chase in its first round. We're on the front row. Gabriel Dahari looking to escape the madness from Darlington last Thursday. He'll be on the pole with a 29.225, and league owner Cody Riveras, what a great qualifying effort for the 36 car. He'll be on the outside in row number 1. Back in row 2, you'll find AJ Hyder, winner of this Slinger Shootout earlier on this season, also the winner at Iowa. With Ethan Fonseca Moreno, several race wins in 2025. He'll park his number 92 from 4th on the starting grid. Back in row number 3 is last week's race winner, James Thurston, in his number 82 car from the top 5. Shockey Tarpley, who crashed out of last week's race at Darlington, looking for a comeback night as he rolls off in position number 6. Connor Trafari rolls off in 7th. Austin Doran, who was just short of the win at Darlington, trying to look for his first win of the year, from 8th place. And rounding out the top 10, Stephen Maggio, the defending champ, and Michael Walls in his 24 car, Francisco P10, row 5.
11th will go to James Bomar, looking to try and improve from his Darlington efforts. Wyatt Roberts, the winner from Daytona, will be in the 12th spot, with 13th going to Christopher Robinson in the number 12, with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who's been on a very consistent run the last couple of weeks. He rules off from the 14th spot. 15th goes to the 13 of Connor Zola, and Dreddy Robinson will be in the 16th spot there. Larry Miles in the number 30, in the 9th row rather, with Duncan Fall in the number 61 to his outside. Ali Reeves will be in the 19th position, with Jamie Wright rolling off from 20th as we're nearing the back end of the grid, Kenneth.
And back to 21st.
Row 11, Fidel Fabian alongside Trevor Burns in the 02. Alexander Schumacher in the 68 and Brad Sawinski in the 28 in row 12. Declan George and Donovan David in row 13. Row 14, Nicholas Borowski and Amir Bascombe. And then Ryan Jones rounds out the field in 29th.
So 29 cars tonight from New Hampshire for 111 laps. That's 111 miles at this Magic Mile circuit over in Loudoun, New Hampshire. This track, 35 years old, opened back in 1990 in a brand new look after the NASCAR 25 refresh brought this track back to rejuvenated life. Gabriel Dahari and Cody Rivera bring us to the end of turn number 4 and to the green flag. We are racing in Loudoun, New Hampshire.
And 3 wide already there at the start for the 3rd place spot. James Thurston going to the apron to try and find some grip. Gets loose on corner exit, but it's going to be the number 48 of AJ Hyder able to hold on for the 3rd spot for now. More 3 wide further back. Trafari on the apron. Doran trying to go all the way to the 4th lane. And we're going to see this all night long on these restarts. 3, even 4 wide through these corners.
Nate, there is not a lot of banking here in New Hampshire, but what there is a lot of space. You can use any of those lanes from the bottom end where that painted line is. You can even go under it to the apron to try and make speed. You can be all the way as near as maybe the 3rd or 4th group to try and carry that momentum. Crash at the exit of turn 2. Someone spinning at Stephen Maggio sideways and brings nearly some other cars on the way with him. And the defending champion goes for the spill 2 laps deep.
It was not an ideal situation for Steven last week at Darlington. He struggled and was able to come away with second place, but this is once again just not a great start for the driver of the 51 after a decent qualifying effort. Got tagged there off of turn 2 by the 9 car, and unfortunately he's going to have to try to recover from this one very early on. Here's a look at it from the blimp view, and it's going to give us a great shot as the different lines are being ran. Trafari trying to hang on the bottom. There's kind of staggered 3. Trafari drifts up from that bump, and you see it's just enough to get into Steven, and it spins the 51 around. I'll say the best thing for Steven is that he didn't hit anything or anybody, so no damage to his race car. Maybe he comes in to take a tire set for the spin, but otherwise he's okay.
Watch the onboard look from Connor Trafari, and it just looked like the car washed up a little too high off the low banking.
Yeah, with that low banking, it's really easy to run out of racetrack. There's not banking to catch you as you come off of the corner and keep you planted in your lane. So not surprising to see that there. We're probably going to see it more than just that once here in this race. But little consequence for Stephen Maggio. Didn't get any major damage, of course. And, he's just going to have to work his way back to the field. But really, that's not an unfamiliar situation for that 51 car.
It really hasn't. It's been a tough championship defense for Stephen Maggio, although he's been rather close to winning several races this season. No doubt about it. He's put himself in position to do so. It's just been about the luck that hasn't been in his favor for the Cairo, New York native to be able to execute. He is, again, one of those 16 drivers in the Eliminator chase format, hence why you see the purple and pink playoff banner on the front end of the race car, as well as that pink and purple rear spoiler. So he's going to be all the way at the back. 26 places where he resides, so not fully dead last, as a couple of drivers did hit pit road. Larry Miles, Declan George, and Connor Zola ended up on the pit lane. But again, track position at a short track like this, to which it has been kind of common at several tracks we've seen rather lately, Francisco. Phoenix, even last week's race at Darlington, plenty of those opportunities to pass are kind of taken away just because of this next-gen update primarily, but just the way the track races, and New Hampshire really is no different in that sense.
Yeah, this update has really tossed a change to the next-gen car, as I think Thurston on the choose tagged the outside wall trying to go to the outside lane, but it looks like he may be okay. It really races so different than what the car did before. Before we had a lot more pack racing, cars were tighter together. They were pretty free the entire way through, but now in a way the cars are a little bit tighter overall, but they're snappy. They can go around at any instance, even though it feels like it's tight for the most part. And in dirty air, you obviously have the aero pack situation where you either get loose or tight behind somebody, usually tight. And if you're the car ahead, you get loose as well just by a car being right behind you. So this is part of the challenges of trying to learn this new car and trying to see who can figure it out as best as possible to go out here and win these races. And at a short track position is going to mean so much. You cannot lose it. And Gabriel Tahari this time, after starting on pole, did not have a penalty to have to drop back from. He's going to look to try and make sure he can keep that top spot as long as possible to the green flag.
First use of our Echo Park restart zone to the green flag on lap number 6. Tahari shoots out in front by a solid margin. Healthy gap back to Moreno, who swoops on the outside of Cody Riveras. Again, that Ford Mustang started outside row 1, just having to cling to what's left of the banking down to the inside of the racetrack. Nearly 3 wide. Right behind them, James Thurston in a head-to-head battle with Connor Trafari. They'll dive to the inside of Shockey Tarpley, and Trafari using way the apron on the bottom of the racetrack. Still 3 wide.
Wrecking the back.
And there's trouble. Duncan Fall seems to be involved in it. I believe Declan George might have had a piece. And it is indeed the 61 machine of Duncan Fall. It does get in trouble. Second caution out of lap number 7. And just like that, we cannot get this race going without a bit of chaos to begin. And we'll take a look at how this all unfolded. But I believe, Francisco, just like the first incident, more cars involved, yes, just as harmless, though.
And it happens actually further up ahead. It's the 15 of James Bomar that gets tagged by Christopher Robinson going into turn 3. The 12 was making a move on the 38 and just sent it in way too hot and ends up taking out the 15 in the process. Very similar to the incident with Austin Dillon and Cody Ware earlier this past week in the real life NASCAR Cup Series event. There's the hit for Bomar to the outside wall, and I think a couple other cars maybe made some contact trying to avoid the incident overall. But Bomar with the back end of the race car, luckily no damage to the rear bumper, so even though he spun and hit the wall, doesn't look like the 15's hurt at all.
It was a pretty square hit to the back end of his next-gen car, but one thing we've learned about this car in real life and on iRacing is that it can take a beating. These new composite bodies have allowed for some of these cars to take a couple hits without being fully damaged beyond repair. So for Bomar, no really existential damage for the Sunoco car as Steven Maggio, the fellow Toyota, comes in on pit road just looking to top off on fuel, given the fact that that ideology is you're at the back of the field anyway, why not do it? You're not going to lose anything out on the racetrack. So Maggio just looking to keep himself more reassured as we're under the second yellow of the race. And for Bomar, you know, before Darlington, pair of 29th place finishes. His last top 10 before that was at Talladega Super Speedway. Walked into a 9th place effort in late August, but for Bomar, it really hasn't been the best summer and early fall stretch that he's been looking for, especially when things have come down to crunch time in this Eliminator chase, even though Bomar really hasn't put himself in contention for the championship as much compared to a lot of the other drivers out there that are still looking for the title. But for the most part, it has been pretty rough for car number 15. He'll try and recoup Nate as we're getting ready for the restart.
Getting ready for this restart. And on the choose, the top line seems to be preferred amongst these faster cars. It's going to allow guys to kind of close up if they want to take that inside lane. And it's no surprise we saw this most recent restart with Ethan Fonseca Moreno coming in behind Gabriel Dahari, just leaving the field in the dust off the restart. So I think that's going to really be something that stays true all race long until someone proves they can match the leader's pace down on the inside lane. And that's going to be a strategy drivers are going to employ to try to maybe gain some spots, be a little bit more aggressive, get the elbows out going into turn one from the bottom lane, and trying to hold serve.
And Dahari's got some help from Moreno right behind. We saw what a great restart that Choice Hotels number 92 car got on the start. Was able to clear Rivera's basically the entry of turn one, and considered with that pass for second. Just a very quick effort overall. As we get back into the restart zone, beautiful jump by Dahari. And back under the green from Loudon, New Hampshire. Another solid jump as well by the rest of the guys on the outside group. More of a challenge though in turn one. Cody Rivera's down the inside.
Moreno's been challenging on these restarts, trying to move up inch by inch. The caution flag will wave again, though. Trouble in the back. There's the 23 of Nicholas Borowski in trouble. Unfortunately for him, it's going to be a tough night after contact with the outside wall. Probably a similar incident to what we've seen so far. We've had two accidents early on in this one, and both looked awfully the same. So let's get the replay here to see exactly what sent the 23 spinning. And see 3 wide in front, and it looks like the 30 might have gone just a little bit deep into the corner, and he also spun in the process and tagged the wall, did Larry Miles as well. I think Duncan Fall maybe also tagged in a little bit later, just barely making contact. Here's the onboard from the 30 machine, and you're going to see him go into turn one, just brakes a lot later, gets into the left rear, slow spin, finishes him off, and then as he's coming around, as the 23 is spinning, the back end hits the 30, and that's what gets Larry Miles into the one. You saw some damage to the back end of that 30.
And that is not the situation you'd like to have happen if you're Larry Miles. The driver now 9 points below the cut line for the Eliminator chase, cut off when we get to that next week at the Virtual Road America circuit. But still time, obviously, to make up those positions. It's not entirely an out of context scenario in which he'd have to win the race or do something miraculous. He can still point his way in through naturally, but for Larry, of course, not entirely the situation that you'd want to have happen. And for Duncan Fall being the spinner, heart of the incident the last time around in our last yellow of the race, now more nose damage for the 61 machine, so he'll come down pit road, and we're going to be under the yellow flag again. So lots of chaos early. I'd say for Dahari, Nate, it's almost calm in that sense because, yes, you've got some pressure to nail the restarts every single time, but as long as you do that, as long as you can accomplish that feat, check that box, you're okay, because if these cautions continue to come out, no one's going to face you.
Yeah, these runs have absolutely just not had the chance to get long enough for Gabriel Dahari to face a challenge in this race quite yet. So, of course, as spectators, we're looking to see the entertainment of a long run as they're going through the choose right now, and you see once again the inside-outside pick.
And Dahari will choose. looks like we're going to go single file just because we did not get enough laps in. So everyone seemingly faking us out. We didn't understand the rules. So it's kind of our situation of figuring things out. But yes, lots of cautions have come out.
I think we'll go with they decided to wave it off after they chose. I think that makes us look the best.
Yes, everyone was kind of doing that, though. I mean, obviously in that rhythm to be able to choose your lane. But because we did get that caution before completing a full lap, we are going to go single file in efforts to potentially clean this race up just a little bit. 13 laps deep from New Hampshire. Still no proper green flag runs to speak of. Our longest green flag run was that first run of the race after the initial drop of the green, but Dahari will continue to lead. It's Riveras, Moreno, Duran, and AJ Hyder, the current running top 5. Green flag back in the air. Once again, a consistent effort for Dahari to step out in front by nearly 2 to 3 car lengths. Down low goes Moreno on the apron at turn 1. Riveras has him clear. Single file start out of turn 2.
And there you see everybody was able to get a lot better of a jump this time. And it might end up helping out the race situation. And we see if we could go a couple laps under the green flag here, as it looks like a battle further back. The 52 look to the outside of Moreno for the 3rd spot. And here's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer and Michael Walls trying to see if they can battle for position.
Jurgensmeyer coming into this race P6 in points, and with that Darlington finish, 52 points ahead of the cut line. It still is close between those drivers at the top, and that will matter when it comes down to the championship race. But if your priority is to stay out of the cut line area, for Jurgensmeyer and a lot of others around him, including Andretti Robinson, they seem to be relatively okay, given how consistent they've been for so long in this 2025 edition of SAAC Cup Series action. While up the road, Connor Trafari looking to nearly make a move on Shockey Tarpley. And it's near these single file trains where we're starting to see some other drivers just peak lower and lower on the racetrack. Moreno, Trafari, and Thurston, Nate, seem to be those 3 drivers that are more willing to search for grip down low.
Yeah, when you got the confidence in your cars, we have another caution out already. It's Jamie Wright spun out on the back end of turn 2 right there. Looks like he got contact with the front end of the inside wall. We'll find a replay, see just how hard of contact it is. The damage doesn't look too bad right now. We'll be sure to have a look. This is,
I think it was on his own right here through the bumps. He goes through that transition point between the low line, which has negative banking compared to the rest of the racetrack. And on that transition, he just lost control of the car, never hit the wall. Here's the onboard look from Jamie as he goes into turn 1. We've seen drivers running this line where they either run this specific line or a lane below, but you hardly try to straddle it, and this is why.
You know, there's 2 to 7 degrees variable here in New Hampshire. Obviously goes from the 2 at the bottom to the 7 all the way at the very top. That's where that transition kicks in on one of those interior seams. So you either want to be as low as you can to stay on the 2-degree banking, or you want to straddle the seam enough to keep control of the race car. Jamie Wright did neither of those things. He was right in between both, had slipped away, and the car just stepped out from underneath him. So again, we're going to have a very similar yellow flag situation in which somebody just loses the back end of the race car, but thankfully for Wright and for the rest of the field, no damage to the 38, no damage to anyone else. Nobody else got a piece of it. So Dahari will continue to maintain this field under the yellow flag. But Francisco, this will do some interesting things for the fuel numbers. We saw Steven Maggio and a couple of others come down pit road. For many of the drivers, it was about damage repair and getting their cars back to 100%. But for the former series champion, it was just to gain some extra laps of fuel, and that could be very big, especially if we get longer green flag runs for the rest of this race. And he's doing it again here on lap 18.
I mean, he may as well. He hasn't really gained any track position in the few green flag laps that we have had in this race, so he loses nothing by coming in and making sure he is topped off, because all it takes is one long run at the right time, and he does not have to bring it back down pit road anymore. Right now, by the way we see it, the fuel window is somewhere between 65 and 70 laps in this race. Obviously, there's just under 100 laps to go in this one. You would think with the amount of caution laps we've had, and probably the ones we have left to had, if we have enough yellows, the front portion of the field is going to be tight on fuel all the way to the checkered flag of the scheduled distance, and those who pitted may or may not have a little bit more of fuel in there. And I'll tell you what, Kenneth, I'm tired of fuel talks. It feels like now everything is about fuel.
It is really all about fuel. And it pains me too, not because it's about fuel, but it's because I'm horrible at math. So I would never put myself in a position to try and brainstorm the numbers that a lot of these teams and drivers are right now. And for Maggio, he's hoping that the luck continues on tracks that are a mile or under, because in the 2 prior starts that he's had at tracks around that length or below 1 mile, he's got 2 podium finishes, 2nd place and a 3rd place from both Phoenix and at Iowa, the other 2 tracks that we've seen that are around the same figure at about a mile or less. So for the defending series champion, got a lot of work to do, but if we get a green flag run, chance for the 51 to stretch his legs, maybe flex his muscle, just needs the time. 20 laps deep from New Hampshire, another green flag single file restart. And it's Zahari in control. Rivera's playing defense on Moreno. Slight peek to the inside. Austin Duran, who finished in the top 3 at Darlington after missing out on the win last week, trying to punch his way further into the podium. Slide for Moreno, but the caution comes out almost instantaneously, and it's trouble for the 12 car, Christopher Robinson.
Yeah, huge crash he had in turn 1. He immediately towed it back to the pit lane. It was a big crash for the 12 car going into turn 1, and I'm not sure what happened. It looks like he blinks out for a moment, so we're really unable to see what caused him to wreck there, Kenneth. It's almost like he got loose, I would have to guess, but he blinks out at the critical moment.
It was just in and out for the most part, and that will bring us under the yellow once again. So a similar instance of a single car accident. That one much more hellacious, though, for Robinson. It appears that's going to take him out of the race completely. I don't know if we can get a better look at how that all unfolded from the perspective of the 12 car. But again, Nate, it's one thing about iRacing that you kind of really can't get over, the internet connectivity issues. If somebody's blinking in and out, it's going to be hard to see them in full action. And he blinks right before he crashes, so you can't really tell.
Yeah, it's certainly something unique to, well, not to iRacing compared to other games, but to iRacing compared to, you know, any other level of NASCAR racing in the real physical world. Is that we really, I guess, have no idea what happened, and it could even have been a latency issue that caused the 12 to actually crash in the first place. He could have, you know, completely bobbled. I'm not gonna pretend to be a computer scientist and understand exactly what goes on when somebody's lagging, but I know I certainly in other games have been in one spot, had a lag spike, and when I thought I've moved forward for 3 seconds, I go right back to that original spot. So it could be all sorts of things that happen to cause that wreck, maybe not just a problem of getting too loose or too tight.
Well, regardless, it is a heavily damaged race car, and for what it's worth, Robinson is going to be DNF'd from this race. He has disconnected from the session, so he'll be at least 2 laps down or more as Duncan Fall will try to get his lap around. And that should keep every single other car, apart from Robinson, on the lead lap, now that Duncan Fall has gotten that wave around. So all 28 cars that are still on the racetrack have a chance to gain track position without needing any waves. So once again, a quick yellow before we completed a full lap off the restart means the rules tell us we're going to go single file racing again. And Francisco, I'd imagine for Dahari, it's bittersweet, and the same deal for a lot of the rest of the top 5, because yes, you've got good position, you've got it locked down because the yellows come out so fast that you can't really change track position in a good or bad way, but it's frustrating that you can't run and show the guys up front what you have with your race car.
It can get frustrating for sure when you're in this position. The caution flags keep coming out, but as long as Dahari can keep the lead, it's not the worst thing in the world. He'll continue to lead laps. He'll very crucially save fuel as we continue to progress through this race. And as we say here, with under 90 laps to go, it's all about trying to continue to keep the pace out front, execute these restarts, and by the time the next yellow flag waves, pushing that clutch. Every drop could be very helpful.
Dahari hoping that he can continue to lead laps. He led the way for 82 when he won his last race at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Green flag out again. Another faint peek by Moreno to look under for second. Meanwhile, behind them, Connor Trafari trying to dive underneath Shockey Tarpley. They about to spread. AJ Hyder 3 wide at the exit of turn 2. Thurston claps the wall. Everyone okay, though. Back to turn 3. Dahari in the lead. And there's Moreno pointing down low on the Team USA Ford Mustang. Cannot do it at the exit of turn 4. And Moreno will try again to get in that deep dive, trying to get the left side tires on the apron, stay on the 2 degrees of banking, Nate. And Moreno charging, looking for P2.
He's right there side by side with Cody Rivera as they come out of turn 2. He's been aggressive. We saw him really try the inside right off the restart, and he's going to get all the way down, gets onto the apron just a little bit, almost diamonding the corner, as now he's going to try to get the bite out of turn number 4. A little bit more momentum for the 36er Rivera. We'll see if Moreno can finish it off here in turn 1.
And again, that's why Francisco Dahari and company had chosen the outside lane on the restarts, because look at the run you get. Apex of corner to the exit. Rivera is going to use it to hold on to the fence down the back straightaway.
Yeah, for such a track of this kind of length, you have really long straightaways. So by carrying that momentum on the high side and rolling the corner well, you can use it to stave off anybody that's trying to attack on the bottom. Moreno there went all the way to the flat and was able to make the pass complete. So he'll take P3 back on this one, as it looks like the 52 is blinking there for a time being right now, trying to sort that one out. But right now, you see a little bit of more battles going on further back. That was the 9 of Trafari, who got sideways underneath of Thurston. There's Hyder, who peeked to the inside of Shockey Tarpley, locks up and gets into the 25, spins him into the outside wall, but the wall will save the 25, get some damage on his car, but he loses all the track position.
And again, not another situation that could take a playoff driver further out of contention. Tarpley coming into this race +9. Remember that Larry Miles scenario we talked about after he was involved in a crash? Tarpley is on the better end of it. The last thing he wanted to see was a car hitting him out of the way and into the outside wall. Yellow flag out. It's the defending champion, Steven Maggio, sideways in turn 1.
Once again, we're going to take a look at what happened here. He had, of course, had his trouble at the very onset of this race. He come down pit road a couple of times to top off on fuel. And we'll take a look, see what happens here. He kind of steps out of line there behind Ryan Jones for a moment, gets on his outside, and it's contact with the number 8 car that sends him around.
Another rather harmless scenario, and then for Shockey Tarpley, just got booted out of the way by AJ Hyder as they were nearing turn 3. Here was the battle, just about 3 abreast. Austin Duran had blinked in and out, sort of moved out of the way for the competition down low. Trafari underneath Thurston, and that Splatoon 2 car on the outside still trying to make things work. And it was just a lockup of the brakes. We talk about braking markers, braking zones at short tracks. It is a big thing here at this flat New Hampshire circuit. For Hyder, just overcooked it on entry and had no choice but to slide up into Tarpley's 25 car.
And the inside lane for turn 3 for braking is very interesting, Kenneth, because there's a lot more bumps down there. So if you're really hard on the brakes trying to brake for turn 3, you're prone to lock it up on the inside. So you have to either just manually kind of modulate that as you go into the corner, or run a lot of rear brake. And either way, it could end up being very impactful to you in your race. And we saw that in the Real Life Cup Series race this past weekend. We heard Steve Letarte kind of really explain it really well, is that that knockback of the brakes is that you're going into the corner, but the bumps are so aggressive that you don't feel like you're slowing down, and the brakes actually go backwards. They go back towards you instead of staying down. And or if you try to fight through that, the car steps out and spins out from under you. We saw that happen to John Hunter Nemechek.
And for this track, being a relatively new refresh for iRacing, which made the mission clear over the course of 2025 to refresh all of the NASCAR ovals in preparation for their console game that's going to release in October, NASCAR 25. And New Hampshire was one of the first tracks to get that new treatment alongside Las Vegas, to which Gabriel Dahari was able to win on a relatively new track surface. This track before used to be much more bumpy, a lot more abrasive, no safer barriers on the straightaways, Nate. So it's really interesting to see even those bumps continue to be a problem in turn 3 when they were much worse back then before this refresh.
I think I might almost be able to catch you. I don't know if it's a little smoother the rest of the lap, and then all of a sudden you get into turn 3 and you're bumping along like Toe Mater on Lightning McQueen's freshly repaved roads. And, you know, that could definitely catch you maybe out to dry a little bit if you're in a zone and you're running a really good lap, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where those bumps come from? Super easy to make just the slightest mistake, and especially if there's a car to your outside, it's definitely going to be noticed. I think that if there was no one to Hyder's outside there, probably say, oh, we locked it up, and then we keep going, but cars right there are going to get hit and get in the wall.
You remember how many days it had to take for Lightning to repave that whole road that he tore up?
I really should.
I know this answer.
I really should. I think I burnt through 2 different DVDs. watching that with my little brother. We made our grandma sick of that movie, I'm sure.
Francisco, you
I
know how many
believe it
days?
was 4.
4 days for Lightning McQueen to try and repair that road. He was like, 4 days? Green flag back out in the air. Dahari out in control. Moreno steps in his second, and now Rivera's is going to get clawed in by the monsters of the sea into turn 1. Inside goes Thurston. Failed attempt, looking for 3rd place at the exit of turn 2.
Let him on the outside there for the number 36. As looks like trouble further back. Maggio down below the apron, but he's able to save it this time. Looks like the 13 of Zola also slow as well, but right now everything is green as you see a couple cars running different lines to turns 3 and 4, much like we've seen throughout the evening, trying to gain some more positions. There's the 9 of Trafari, who hasn't made too much progress on the field, Kenneth. He was one of the absolute fastest in practice, nearly 2/10 clear from all his competitors on the timesheets, but so far in this race, obviously we haven't had a lot of green flag laps, but Trafari has to be patient. Looks like Thurston slips up in the middle of the corner. Trafari nearly gets into his left rear as he slides up himself, but looks like we could have a battle for the lead here. Moreno's on the back bumper for your race leader.
Saw that huge wiggle from the 9 car as he took the apron down low in turn 3. That change of angle didn't really assist that 9 car's effort in trying to take away the spot from Thurston. He'll hold on to 3rd, and now is where Moreno is trying to get through his good friend Gabriel Dahari. We've seen these two tussle at it before, and Nate, several races this season in which Moreno just needed green flag laps to pull out fast laps and be one of the best cars on the racetrack. Phoenix had showed us he could do that relatively well. Now still within a car length of the race leader back to turn 1.
You mentioned Phoenix. That's a track that I would consider to be a sister track of the Magic Mile. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, I've talked to him a couple times. He maintains that he should have won that race. Not that he could have won that race, not that he would have won that race at this, but he says he should have won that race. You know, that's something that's haunting him and has been haunting him for a couple of weeks. He's been in, for all intents and purposes, a drought here in the second half of this season after such a dominant open.
And he won Charlotte in a strategy fest. He won a couple more races from there on out. Lots of great performances in between as well. You mentioned that Phoenix race that he says that he should have won. Iowa Speedway was a race in which he had a fast Chevrolet, ended up finishing in the top 3, but a race that he told us also could have gone his way had things had panned out in the right way. So for Moreno sort of bumping Katy Perry through the midway portion of this regular season, the ones that got away for the most part for this Californian as he runs in second, Thurston back in 3rd. The only real battle you'll see is between these drivers in the top 10, up in front of what is Brad Sawinski and Amir Bascombe. Looks like Fidel Fabian dialing the inside on Schumacher. This is going to be for P12 with Ollie Reeves right in front.
Can I just say, elite reference to someone from the same state.
Exactly. And a reference, that was for you, honestly. That was a reference for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, of course. There's Raleigh Reeves sitting back in 11th, of course, needing a relatively solid race tonight. The 31 car who had made the midseason bracket challenge earlier on this season steps in tonight plus 23 to that race cut line for the Eliminator chase as we step into Road America. And still repping that throwback from the race last week at the virtual Darlington Raceway. That's a Ryan Newman throwback. That is a deep cut. I think that's the Quicken Loans car, if I'm not mistaken, for Ollie Reeves. So a good throwback for the 31 car tonight. Clears that monstrous area of the racetrack where Fidel Fabian and Alexander Schumacher continue to pivot out for 12th place, the exit of turn 4.
Talk about that throwback, the Quicken Loans car. I love that car. That is a good-looking car. I was pretty surprised to see that throwback a week ago as he goes side by side here. Connor Trafari and Cody Riveras on the exit of turn number 2. Plenty of good battles around the racetrack. And how about Fidel Fabian knocking on the door of the top 10? A good run for him so far early in New Hampshire.
Really good run for that white number 55 Toyota Camry. That's that Michael Waltrip Racing font that they used to run back in the days of the Gen 6 car when Mark Martin used to run that Aaron's car. As Fidel Fabian will give up the track position to Schumacher on the outside of what's going to be turn 1 here. Fidel Fabian almost making contact with Schumacher as they chase to turn 2. But so far, some of the best battles happening right about here. Trafari lets off the gas pedal, continues to mount that pressure though on Riveras, as Andretti Robinson on the left side of your screen files in for 9th.
And we saw a little bit of a bump there from Trafari on the last time by in turn 1, so he is starting to really mount the pressure. And I think Riveras is seeing that because look at him just kind of give the 9 car the spot going into turn 1 this time. Doesn't really want to get another bump from Trafari, so move Trafari up to 4th.
Just that high IQ play of, hey, I know you're faster than me right now. I'm not going to make the situation worse and bring in more drivers because, again, longest green flag run that we've seen so far tonight, 41 laps in. I think nobody really wants to go side by side for too long to cluster the field and potentially higher up the chances of contact and therefore a crash. So Trafari moves on through. He'll step into fourth. Big news is he's got at least a second to cover before he can catch up to that blue and green number 82 machine of James Thurston. Very interesting, Nate, to see the experimentation of lines here. We mentioned the apron is of use at New Hampshire, but a lot of drivers are very scared to put the left side tires down there. It's the flattest part of the circuit on the transition point, but Trafari and Thurston seem to be relatively comfortable doing that, and it's given them a lot of speed in the long run.
And if you're comfortable enough and confident enough in your ability to maintain control of your race car, that apron transition can almost help turn your car just a little bit. I mean, it makes your car loose, and that's why guys stay away from it. But if you think you can manage it, that's going to help you get through the corner all that little bit cleaner. And you're also seeing the difference between guys that are running a couple lanes high, a couple guys trying to diamond the corner. This is something we saw come into play in the Cup Series race on Sunday, and it always comes into play at New Hampshire. We're going to find out which lane is the most dominant as we keep moving forward.
So far, for Trafari, it works out. For the third-place car of Thurston, it is working considerably. He has chased down the top running two in Moreno and Dahari. They have still not gotten away from each other. It's still about a car length or two between the pair of Chevrolets. But again, they're not running the apron. Thurston and Trafari are, and they continue to rally off faster lap times than the front-running two. So it could get very, very interesting as we step into the near halfway marker of this race. And down low goes Moreno, searching for the lead. Nose ahead in the middle portion of turn one. Dahari fights back on the top groove.
What I've noticed is that Moreno, the last couple laps, has changed his line from whatever he had been running before, and he's willing to use that flat apron part going below the painted line as he did there. And honestly, he's been able to find some kind of grip down there. That's one of the things I probably like about this update, is that it gave grip to that part of the racetrack, and though he's not able to complete the pass, there's enough grip for him to really challenge for the position. He doesn't have to worry too much about losing nearly half a second. Look how far Thurston was on the entry of the corner there, but it at least gives Moreno an option to give for that clean air.
Looking for as much rotation as possible. There's the onboard look from Dahari Chevrolet as he continues to hold on to this defense on the driver trying to chase for the lead and become the first proper lead change tonight from this Loudon, New Hampshire track. James Thurston, by the way, continues to hunt down the leaders. He did not set the fastest time out of the drivers in the top five. That honor goes to Connor Trafari, but Thurston is close enough to put in a charge. He's gotten close to where he's going to get the dirty air in front, Nate, so it will hamper the 82's performance a little bit. But like Francisco said, any opportunity to gain clean air is an opportunity worth taking for these drivers behind Dahari.
You see he's all the way on the apron. That's definitely another helpful part of him being on the apron, is that air is substantially cleaner than being right in the tire tracks of the 92, and he is continuing to take time out from that lead that the 92 has over him. And we'll see what he's able to do. The 92 is going to get the bite on the exit of the corner here, but he's really thrown it for all it's worth. Oh, and he throws it into the wall out of turn two.
And that's a big mistake for Thurston. Trafari is now going to have a chance to deal the arrow. They're both running the apron, mind you. Trafari will run a little bit higher. Thurston on the defense as Moreno dives again for the race lead. He's got the nose on the quarter panel of the B-Movie Racing Chevrolet. Californian versus Texan to turn one.
That's a very common battle we see in real life, and there's Ethan trying to get the nose out in front, but with less banking, he's going to get sideways. He saves it, and he's now going to fall back to that battle for third. What I was going to say is, honestly, I don't even remember what I was going to say, but now we're 3 wide for second.
Oh, watch the gloves there off of turn two. Moreno with a whale of a save to keep his Choice Hotels car from spinning. Now Trafari has to gather his car up from disaster, and Moreno drops one. He'll stay in touch for Thurston for second, as Thurston wobbles sideways in the middle of one, wobbles outside of two. Moreno up the outside again, looking for P2.
Oh, and all this battling is making Gabriel Dahari really, really happy, because as these guys keep, throwing haymakers at one another, getting loose on exit, hitting the wall on exit, he can just run clean laps and drive aways. Now we go on board with Connor Trafari. He's chasing that bright teal bumper of the 82, but now the 92 is going to go right by him on the outside. That's what the momentum does when you can extend the straightaway, get the power down a lot earlier on corner exit. And this is a look at the save that Ethan Fonseca Moreno had, and that was out of control as he exited turn number 2.
That's as close to the edge as it can get without spinning out the race car, Francisco. Several times, and many times we've seen drivers in this next-gen car move it up and overcorrect into the outside wall. Moreno did none of that. He kept the car collected and still fighting for third into turn 1 with Trafari.
But I think that goes to show what his tire situation is, there's a little bit of contact there with him and Trafari. Trafari right now, the fastest of anybody inside this top 4 battle, as now Moreno slams the wall again. And honestly, what that does is it reminds me, what I was going to say, is that the 82 and maybe even the 92 now may have some damage. Moreno gives the tap to the 9 car, and it might get him to the outside of Thurston, but the 82 finds some grip there. And they're starting to bunch up again because Dehari of this group is one of the slower cars on the racetrack, so they're not exactly going away, and before you know it, maybe AJ Hyder can find himself up into this battle.
How about the physicality from Trafari to slide underneath Moreno and make that completed pass for third, looking like Shaq in his prime in the paint, just bodying Moreno out of the way, and now he's got to find a way around Thurston, who continues to stay faithful to the low end of the racetrack, right around where that grass kicks in at the interior of turns 3 and 4. Top of the wall from Trafari, cannot complete the move for second, but again, like you said, Francisco, not entirely getting out of touch. The only problem now for the front-running 4 is that they're going to bring in a 5th rather soon. AJ Hyder is not playing around. He's gained lap time on these quartet of drivers, and now he's starting to potentially make a move.
Yeah, and AJ Hyder, certainly one of those drivers that I had circled to see Trafari work past Thurston for second. I'd say finally, but Thurston fights right back to his inside. Looks like Trafari will have the spot for now, but AJ Hyder is a driver that I had circled coming into this race. Remember, just go back a few races ago to Phoenix. He was absolutely dominant, led the most laps of that race by far, and was unable to get the win after there was an unfortunate incident where he lost spots on pit road and then kind of got caught out under a slew of cautions during green flag pit stops as well. So things were from really good to not so great at Phoenix. AJ Hyder, he wants redemption at another flat mile track.
And if there's any definition of consistency in this year's SAAC Cup Series, it's going to be AJ Hyder that exemplifies that perfectly in his 10 starts prior to tonight's race from New Hampshire. Only 3 finishes outside the top 20. Ended up with a top 10, 7th place at Darlington as he wiggles the car sideways, carrying out the right rear at the exit of turn 2. But for the rest of it, all of the finishes better than 6th in his career in season number 4 of the SAAC Cup Series. So Hyder has been on a roll ever since he joined the series and tried to run full time. Of course, one of those Eliminator Chase playoff drivers trying to continue his way forward for a title. Steps into this race 5th in standings after the top 10 from South Carolina in Darlington, plus 55 to that top 16 cut line that will have it come into effect next week at Road America, to which we should see another possible standout effort from AJ Hyder. Had a chance to win at Sonoma Raceway earlier on this season, but fell short to the eventual winner, who's running second right now in Connor Trafari. And speaking of which, Trafari has extended the gap from himself to James Thurston, so a bit more elbow room gives Trafari and the 3-time winner a chance to now flex on Gabriel Dehari in the challenge for the lead.
He's been closing that gap, and now he's inching towards that 72, running faster laps. He slides off of turn 2, Kenneth, but he is slowly getting there, so we'll see what Dehari does in holding off this 9 car. We saw what he did against Ethan Fonseca Moreno, but what does he do against this 9 car who looks a lot faster than Moreno did?
Almost kind of reminiscent of that Homestead of Miami race when James Thurston had to challenge Gabriel Dehari in those final few laps, had to make an effort at it, did so, but Dehari got him right back in those final few. Down low look for Trafari, continuing to find any sort of clean air that can help him get any edge on this B-Movie Racing Chevrolet to turn 3.
He throws it into turn number 3, helping turn that car on the transition from the banking to the apron. He's not going to get the run out of the corner. Dehari's going to put some space between the two of them, but he's definitely closer than he was the last time. He might throw it into turn number 1 here. He does not. Decides to stay back up. He's going to try to get the good exit here. Turns his nose just lower than the 72 down the backstretch. he's going to have a chance right here very, very soon to make an actual attempt at the pass and not just gaining space with an aggressive move.
But Francisco, does he get a little more desperate? Because if he looks up the road, there is lap traffic that is starting to be approached by the top 2 leaders. There's one of those cars at the exit of turn 4, so Trifari may have to be a little more careful here because a bad situation with a lap car could change the entire run for this race lead. As Trifari, big wiggle outside turn 2, as he's still 2/10 behind the race leader in Dahari. As we continue to watch this battle for the lead, more than halfway. 50 laps to go here from Loudon, New Hampshire. This race has gone rather quick just because it's our longest green flag run of the race. And we mentioned tire strategy as well as fuel strategy. It will start to come into play, especially now that these guys are at sort of the tail ends of their long green flag stretch. 62 laps deep. Nate, we sort of mentioned that fuel window around 70-ish laps. So potentially the fuel window could start to open up here for what may be the final pit stop of the night.
Yeah, of course, that slew of cautions early is going to help guys save a handful of laps, but we're definitely at a point where coming to get at least fuel, probably 4 tires. We'll see if anyone decides that they want to take 2 and run those left sides the entire time. Trifari goes low again on Gabriel Dahari. He gets down just barely to the inside using that apron, but Dahari gets such a good bite roll in the top, and that's the advantage you have when you're defending from the lead, is you get to pick your lane. The guy behind you, he's not going to run into you with 40 or something laps to go, so you get to decide what lane you take, and you get that big bite on the exit of the corner, and you will have the pace all the way down the straightaway as they close in. I believe that's Nicholas Borowski out in front of the 2 leaders.
It is, and we'll see where the 2 leaders flail. To the inside of Borowski, looks like the 23 car will give space. Trifari's got the nose to the inside, but it was short-lived in that moment. Had to step back out and wait back in the dirty air of the 72 machine. But look at where the 2 differences of the car stand in terms of where they yaw. The 72 seems to be more sideways, out of control, exit of turn 2, exit of turn 4. For Trifari, he seems to be loose from the get-go. He's fighting the car as he challenges it through all the apron transitions and through their banking changes around that blue and white painted line. So it's all about minimizing the level of sidewaysness you can have with this next-gen car, not entirely denying Trifari the opportunity at the race lead. He's still within the car length.
Yeah, and he had a really good exit of turn 2 right there. Stayed in touch with the 72 better than he had really much of the race. And I think that he's actually better out of turn 2. I really like the way that he's able to get that car angled. He gets almost to the door, bobbles a touch off of turn number 4, but he's right in line. Let's take a look at what the 9 is able to do here at the apex of turn 2. He comes in just a little bit lower, gets it wound up, and he turns so much sooner than the 72. He just can't quite get the bite that he needs out of the corner. Didn't have a great exit there, but he's been able to maintain really close touch with the rear bumper of Gabriel Dahari.
It's a similar line to what Kyle Larson implemented in the North Wilkesboro All-Star race a couple years ago. If you remember that race in which he dominated the field, he would put the left sides on the apron in that exact part of the racetrack. Turns 1 and 2 worked out, helped him be as fast as he could be to win that race. Trifari trying to use the extra rotation from the transition to be able to get around this 72 machine, but still no check for car number 9 as he continues to run through. There's AJ Hyder finally making a charge. He has stepped into the top 4. Battle to the inside of Moreno into turn 3.
Yeah, AJ Hyder, he's starting to dig deep and find some more pace here as this run gets really, really long on the back end. And I do think that he actually has, once they come in and put on some new tires and kind of reset the run, I think he may have one of the faster cars. I think it's him and Trifari really that are the 2 fastest on the racetrack when everything is all set to go. Now we look back at Steven Maggio as he continues his fight through the field. It was a less than ideal start to the race, but he has made good progress up to 13th right now.
Just ringing the prophecy true that all he needed was some time and some space to be able to make use of his pace. The Mobile One Toyota will dive to the inside of Amir Bascombe. Those are a pair of Eliminator Chase drivers. Bascombe, as we talked to you about in our pre-race show tonight, one of those drivers below the cut line, minus 14, so needing a rather good one here from Loudon, New Hampshire, but P12 might be enough to suffice to be able to use to momentum into that Road America race that'll happen next week. Big turnoff, though, for a lot of drivers not entirely used to the idea of road course racing, as Maggio has the fastest lap times out of really anyone inside the top 10 or so. He last set a 31 flat, not entirely faster than the front running 6, but for everyone 7th on back, He is on par and faster. Dive to the bottom of Bascombe. This is going to be a big time switch. And this is going to help for sure, Nate, in terms of confidence. Because Maggio, with all this time that he's been able to tick off driver after driver and make use of the track position as Shockey Tarpley gets sideways right in front of them in this battle for 11th, it's enabled Maggio to now step into his rhythm. And as a driver, that's really all you can ask for in a race like this.
Yeah, you got to find the rhythm. You got to find the momentum. And Steve Maggio, when you start on such a poor foot as he did in this race, it takes a while to find it. But once he does, we got some guys coming to pit road here. Looks like Ollie Reeves. I think Jonathan Jurgensmeyer peeled off. And that is, in fact, the case. But yeah, Steve Maggio looking to build some momentum after a pretty disappointing start to the season.
There's Jurgensmeyer on pit road. So the window has opened. Ollie Reeves, playoff driver, has come in. So he's going to get service on his Chevrolet. And for everyone else, just a matter of figuring out when they're going to come down pit road. For the most part, a lot of them are at the edge of their tire life. And here come the leaders. Trafari is going to bring almost everyone behind him in. Thurston, Hyder, Moreno have stepped on a pit road. Dahari and Michael Walls are going to stay out the extra lap.
Yeah, we'll see if Gabriel Dahari is going to come in here. I would assume he almost has to. His hand's going to have to be forced right here. And we'll see if the undercut works for Trafari and the rest of the lead pack behind him. A huge call for these guys, and what a great pit stop for the 92 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He is going to be the quickest out of these guys that were chasing down Gabriel Dahari, and he could be in the catbird seat. We'll see how well the undercut works.
And you know what the common thread is for Moreno from last week's race at Darlington and tonight's event? 2 tires. Another 2-tire call.
Of course it is.
11.2 seconds for Moreno on his stop, and it was about 14.7 for the driver of the 9 machine in Trafari. Now, a long race to go for 2 tires versus 4 to be officially put on the stage for epic rap battles of history, pretty much. But we'll see how it all flails as Dahari will lose out the track position, but with the better tire life by at least a lap. He'll merge on the inside of AJ Hyder. He'll be still within at least 3 or 4 car lengths as they come back to turn number 3. But again, a huge shift in the tide in this New Hampshire race, and will be the first laps tonight, Nate, that a driver not named Gabriel Dahari will lead, as Michael Walls will take control.
Yeah, this is super important for Michael Walls because you do get a little bit of a bonus for leading a lap in a race here in the Eliminator chase. So definitely a points play, but also potentially a strategy play, because this means that the longer Michael Walls runs here, it means that he's going to have that many laps fresher on his tires as we come toward the end of the run. It could end up netting him a position or 2.
And for Walls stepping into this race, minus 13 in the playoff cut line. He's 14th in standings overall, so needing a really good one tonight, and that extra point will really make a big difference. We've seen 1 point just spread across multiple drivers could mean the difference between a championship winning and a championship losing in that sense. There's Austin Duran down pit road in a brand new look number 52, and still waiting the top fellow drivers to come back down pit road. But again, the biggest thing was that a lot of the guys in the midst of the top 5, they have come down pit road already. For Maggio, a 4.3 second stop. That was for fuel only when he was at the back of the field, and that was 46 laps ago. Jamie Wright and Duncan Fall had also come down, but they had spent much longer time. So we can only imagine that maybe Jamie Wright put some 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles on after the spin at the exit of turn 2. So potential tire life that's still in the cards for this Food Lion Feeds Toyota Camry now as Andretti Robinson comes down pit road. And then Duncan Fall, who we've seen been involved in several accidents tonight, got his car fixed, had a 27-second pit stop last time he visited it, about 47 laps before all of this right now. So we could very well be in a really interesting stretch in which maybe Maggio and a couple of those other guys can stay out and have a bit more life left in them and really put the fight up to all of those leaders who have dominated this race so far, as Riveris nearly punted Walls out the way in turn 2.
As fresh tires, get out of my way, man. I know you're the leader. Go. But yeah, you mentioned these guys staying out, and like I don't want to jinx anything, but it's something that we've seen come up in a lot of SAAC Cup Series races and I races in general. Cautions during green flag pit stops have shaken up so many of these races. Again, I take you back to Phoenix. That's what happened in that race on a couple of different occasions. So definitely could be seeing guys look at like, hey, maybe I can catch a caution and jump, so I'm going to run this as long as I possibly can.
And for Walls, his run ends at lap 79. The LSU car will come in on pit road. It looks like that's Brad Sawinski, who won the Slinger Dirty Driver Derby. I believe that's kind of how I got it wrong, but it was basically that little slinger figure 8 race as Brad Sawinski ended up winning by a healthy margin. And for Steven Maggio, with the extra fuel that he put onto his Toyota Camry, just a little bit more of an opportunity for this Mobil 1 car to stay out and accept any sort of track position and the laps led that he will have to his tally. So a grand total of 5 cars still left to come down pit road. Connor Zola has reached 61.
Oh, there
and
it
there's
is.
the yellow flag in the middle of the green flag stretch. I believe it was Fidel Fabian that had trouble out of turn 4.
Maybe I did jinx it.
Oh, man.
Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but it's exactly what I was talking about, is we've seen it happen so frequently, so often. Just a caution comes out in the middle of green flag stops. You look at Fidel Fabian here, gets a little nudge from the 82 of Thurston. Just ever so slightly puts the right rear in the outside wall, but this is a big break for Steven Maggio.
This is going to give him not only the track position, but will give him the freshest tires of the field. And he's going to have a gang that will join him. Jamie Wright, Duncan Fall, Traber Burns, and Connor Zola, who have extended their stay out to this point. We'll have the track position with just about 30 laps to go and under when we get our next green flag stop. And that was tough there for Fabian in the middle of the lead lap traffic, fighting for the net race lead at the time. And, you know, we mentioned at 1.5 miles that eat up the tires much quicker than maybe a New Hampshire does. How big of a play it is to be that fresh tire car, having to cut your way through a lot of slower lap traffic. For Fidel Fabian, just kind of holding his line to slight contact with James Thurston. But here's a big call. Top 5 are coming in. No surprise, but a big surprise for James Thurston. He will make this gamble and come down for service.
Something tells me he thinks that fresh tires might be what wins the race. I mean, you saw the pace difference. You know, a couple of times Cody Riveras almost running over Michael Walls there in turns 1 and 2. As you speak of Cody Riveras, there he is. And then just now, as Thurston got into Fidel Fabian, these fresh tires are fast, so this strategy call is most likely just that. They want those fresher tires for this last run of this race, and they think that that's going to be what can set the edge and move them to be faster than the rest of the field.
Could be the big pawn piece in Steven Maggio's attempt at getting his first win of the season in his championship defense, because he's told us not only across SAAC Cup Series action, but in 4-wide after the race at Indianapolis yesterday, he said that strategy has always been the big frustrator for him, because he always feels like he's on the right end of strategy in many cases, but then something outside of his control happens and it takes away his chances at the win. He will lose track position here, but he will have the fresh tires, Nate, and like we've seen, it's played a big dividend. So does it play a big one here as we'll get ready for the restart inside 30 laps to go? Trafari will lead the race. Moreno on the outside of row number 1 with AJ Hyder down the bottom in row 2. And the pole sitter Gabriel Dahari, who had been the dominator up until this green flag pit stop stretch, he still has the freshest tires by 1 lap. And he'll be out in P4. And then those drivers who had come down pit road more recently than the main group. Andretti Robinson, who pitted just about 6 laps ago. Michael Walls, who we saw take the lead for several laps. He pitted 4 laps ago. He'll be on the outside in row number 3 for position number 6. And then is where you'll find Steven Maggio. So not entirely a lost proposition in the amount of track position that he had to give up coming down pit road. Ollie Reeves in P8, Traber Burns in 9th. And the Beckmeyer, Illinois native of Jonathan Juergensmeyer, he'll round out the top 10. So after the longest green flag run of the night, Trafari and Moreno will see the Echo Park restart zone. A flawless jump from Trafari and an even better one from the inside from AJ Hyder to turn 1.
Double file restart for one of the first times this race. I think we've had more single file than double file. Looks like we might get through turns 1 and 2 okay. Let's check the exit. Everything all good. But Steven Maggio, he jumped spots by picking the inside lane, which is something that I had talked about earlier in this race. And so he gets the caution to fall his way, makes the strategy call to get fresher tires, and uses the choose cone to jump some spots. It's going to be interesting to watch him and also Michael Walls, 2 guys on fresher tires, got that caution right, working their way through the field. Same thing with the 82 of Thurston.
They're on the eye of the hurricane right now, just looking to escape the storm bands. There comes Michael Walls from the outside. Going to pivot ahead of Andretti Robinson, but this battle continues on for 5th. Not entirely helpful for Maggio. Wants the line to be clear from any traffic, but for the most part, they'll settle out for the most part staggered in the middle of 3 and 4 as Trafari continues to hug the apron as AJ Hyder stays within 0.2 of a second. Battle for 5th continues onwards to turn 1. Thurston dives the bottom on Ollie Reeves in the background.
Lots of cars under a blanket, and certainly not out of the woods as far as the danger of these cars coming together. Andretti Robinson is really holding his own impressively on the inside. We've seen the outside be able to bite out of the corner, get such a good run down the straightaway so often. Micah Wall's getting way high on the racetrack. He's going to make that straightaway as long as possible, but they're going to be 3 wide. He got the wall.
Maggio middle 3 as they chase to turn 1. Walls will give up the position. Andretti Robinson down the inside. And all of a sudden, here comes James Thurston, still making it 3 abreast at the exit of turn 2. What a play by Thurston to get down to the apron and try to make things stick. Maggio will be the benefactor of it all. Winner to P5 as he chases down to Hari.
Yeah, Thurston continues to make that inside line all the way on the apron using the transition to help turn the car. He is working that really well as Hyder gets past Trafari.
And it looks like Trafari might have gobbled up a mistake there at the exit of turn 4. And AJ Hyder, new race leader from Loudon, New Hampshire. What a play on the outside groove. He made the mistake as Trafari had wiggled up at the exit of the final corner. And for the 48 machine looking for his 2nd victory in his SAAC Cup Series career, dive underneath for Trafari, levels out at the apex while Dahari mounts the pressure. And look at the top group, 3 wide, 2 for 1 in 1 straightaway. Steven Maggio looks up to 3rd.
Oh, it's a rocket ship, that 51 car. Steven Maggio has been so close, tantalizingly, all season long. He absolutely has the pace in that car and in those tires. He is a man on a mission right now.
What a drive by Maggio to put himself in conversation for the podium for the first time all night long. Spun early on in this race, was involved in several incidents that thankfully didn't give him damage, and now in a position where the strategy can fall in his hands. 2 more cars to beat to look for the race lead inside 21 laps to go, and he's bringing James Thurston with him.
I was just going to say, don't blink because the 82 is right there as well. He's been fast all race. You questioned perhaps the strategy of coming in for fresh tires. I think early on in this run, it's showing that was the right call.
And Maggio really needing a great run tonight from New Hampshire. Of course, we mentioned the struggles at Darlington that befaced him last Thursday, and then all of the troubles that he's faced over the last few races. His last good finish was 3rd at Phoenix Raceway, where he won the pole, then told us how frustrated he was after a strategy call had become a snafu later on in the showing. And over the last 4 races before Darlington, 3 finishes outside the top 15, and then, of course, that 3rd place finish at Phoenix that we mentioned not too long ago. So for Maggio, he needs a find a way back to momentum, and right here could be the case against Trafari. Fighting for 2nd, he won't duck out of line in turn 1. Thurston charges for the apron, making it side by side to the apex, and Trafari still keeping AJ Hyder honest, so it's a 4-car battle for the lead. Contact for 3rd.
There's a squeeze play out of turn number 2. And last time out of turn 4, Steven Maggio almost got to the outside of Connor Trafari, but this isn't horseshoes, nor is it hand grenades, so he had to get it back up and start battling again, and he's going to lose out the spot to the 82. He's got the power down on the back straightaway. What a battle we've got here late.
We've seen Trafari and Thurston make use of the apron over the course of a long green flag stretch, but at some point those tires burn out when they're on the apron for so long. Does that help Maggio if he continues to remain patient at this strategy of the race? He'll push Trafari up ahead in turn 3 as the PSI SM Ford Mustang makes use of the bottom once again. The Mobil 1 Camry will pivot up high. He most likely will clear at the exit of turn 4. Another big shove to Trafari. All the while, AJ Hyder enjoying now a half a second difference to these 3.
Yeah, that 51 has got so much pace, and it's the 2nd time Trafari slammed the door on him out of turn number 4. The patience has got to be wearing thin as he sees the 48 drive off in the distance.
And right behind them, that yellow and black, number 72 of Gabriel Dahari. He's been able to step up to 5th in a close-knit battle with Moreno again, who's on 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles, did not take 4 on his last green flag stop under strategy. So they clear each other out. Andretti Robinson looks underneath. How about 3 wide to turn 1? The dive underneath by Thurston. Grabs both spots, slides up ahead. Thurston in one fell swoop to 2nd place.
That was an incredible move, and it was just as Steven Maggio finally got the outside of Connor Trafari, but Maggio is not done with Thurston yet. He's going to return the favor, dive into the inside. Oh, there's contact! Thurston's drifting through 3 and 4 and catches it right by the wall.
What a save by Thurston, and we stay green. As Maggio made the shove at the entrance of the third corner and said, I'm not going to have any of that outside of the move. Steven Maggio gets second, wiggles loose in 1. Trafari will have a chance to fight back, and Thurston, after the slide of a lifetime, moves back to 5th. Oh my.
Steven Maggio, I said the patience was wearing thin, and I think you saw it there. He got a little late on the brakes, and he got into the 82. He certainly was going for a pass. I don't think it was anything malicious, but he just gets late on the brakes. It's a little squeeze from the 82 in contact, and how on earth did that 82, 1, not go around, 2, not catch the wall? What a save from James Thurston.
By the way, that's not 17, that's not 14, that's not 15 degrees of banking, that is 7 degrees of banking. That's all you are offered here in New Hampshire, and somehow Thurston was able to hang on to the car without tapping the wall and didn't get into any other driver. So a masterful job by the 82 car will keep him afloat, but it won't put him in the battle for the lead. Inside 15 laps to go. Now 14 at the stripe, and this is all that's left for the taking. Half a second between Maggio. He has to eat it up with A.J. Hyder still in control, looking for his second victory of the year.
And we've talked all this about Steven Maggio having a season full of ones that have gotten away. He's only 33 points out of the championship. Thurston working back on the Hari. And speaking of the championship, your top 5 in points all sit in the top 6. The only one not is James Thurston. He's not racing for points in this series. And then right after that is Andretti Robinson, who's 7th in points. So this is going to be a crucial race for the championship.
Andretti Robinson currently runs 7th on the racetrack, so he has a chance to continue to add to his points total. And Michael Wall's running 8th with a chance to get out of the cut line bubble. As we step into Road America next week, Ollie Reeves ends up in 9th in a battle with Shockey Tarpley, so plenty of other drivers that are just around that cut line with a chance to gain some well-needed points here from Loudon, New Hampshire. But the main goal is the lobster in victory lane, whether it be virtual or real. A.J. Hyder still remains in control, half a second back to Steven Maggio, and the best driver out of the top 3 remains A.J. Hyder, but the second best is Connor Trafari, so there may still be some rejuvenated life from this 9 car to battle for second.
And part of me wonders is how long is it going to take for the fresher tires, or I should say for the older tires, to wear to the point where having fresher tires for Maggio becomes the advantage, because the car is not there anymore. He certainly had to work some life out of those good years fighting with Thurston and Trafari for so long. He could end up being on the defense rather than on the attack.
And there's Thurston diving to the bottom, so wants a second chance at getting underneath Trafari. That will put him back in position for the podium. It'll be good for Thurston, but probably not entirely the cigar that he would like, given the chance that he had at fighting for the lead earlier on in this race. So dive to the bottom. Trafari blocks down the apron. Those two will remain nose to tail as they step to the exit of turn 4. But you're right, Maggio, in this case, perhaps had used so much of those tires trying to make defense occur and then push offense at the same time on Connor Trafari. A.J. Hyder just had the time of his life, not only in clean air, but just all that time to settle into his rhythm, get the muscle memory going, and save his Goodyear Eagles while they lost time in the rearview mirror. Hyder will see 9 laps to go from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, looking for win number 2 of 2025, and one that'll matter big time for the championship as we step into a road course next week.
Absolutely, it will. That's Hyder 5th in points, 62 back of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. This is not going to get him up to the top spot on the points, but it's certainly going to take a chunk out of it, and he is actually putting some time down between him and Steven Maggio. Really, really impressive from Hyder.
He continues to pull away. It was the fastest car out of the podium runners, 30.459. The only driver faster than him in the top 5, Connor Trafari, 30.389 on the racetrack. There's Thurston, battle for second, quickly decided. Thurston had used the apron, got around the 51, and so Maggio will have to settle for third. Meanwhile, Trafari continues the offensive push on Gabriel Zahari, trying to run his way through the 72 car to turn 3.
Trifari's going to dive it all the way down. He's on the apron. Uses the banking transition to turn the car just a little as he's done all race. But similar to their battles earlier on in this one, Dahari's going to get the bite on the top of the track, take it down the straightaway. They're still side by side. And I'll say I was somewhat impressed that we didn't have contact between the 82 and 51, and now the 9 moves right past the 72. He's clear into that position, and now he's going to get to work on Maggio.
Yeah, Thurston had all of that time, had all of the space, and just all that momentum. It looked like Maggio had sort of given up the position. Probably not as simple as that. Maggio perhaps a mistake at the exit of turn 4, but now has to worry about those 2 cars that are filling up the rear view mirror. Trifari is finding some last-minute charge inside 6 laps to go, looking like Christian McCaffrey in the middle of an O-line, just trying to push his way through. Dahari point down to the inside. Another look has failed for the B-Movie Racing number 72 car. You look further on back to the single file train, and that's where another battle persists between the Ford Mustang of Andretti Robinson and the current points leader heading into this race, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And again, I'd say in this first round, Nate, of course, you want to get as close as you can to those at the top of the championship table, but you really want to make sure you stave off any sort of relegation and elimination. Andretti Robinson has executed the mission perfectly tonight, and the same could go for Michael Walls. May point himself back into the place into the top 12 to stay ahead after Road America.
Absolutely, and really the way I see it is it's all one and the same because the points don't reset, so you just got to get as much as you want every single time, of course, knowing how many you need. I think that's mostly going to come into play at Road America, but for Michael Walls coming in minus 13, he top 10 was probably what he needed. He's executed that perfectly, and Andretti Robinson is looking to get a real visible, tangible gain on the 92 by passing him on the racetrack. Of course, that'll net you more points.
And it's just a little bit more complicated than just running great races through the first 3. That's obviously what you want to do. As a driver, the ideal situation is winning all the races that you can in this Eliminator Chase format, but they take 75% of your points scored in your worst race, so it's almost a drop week. The other races are awarded full time. So for Andretti Robinson, for Moreno, a lot of these guys in the top 10, their worst race, 75% counted, and some of their best races, some of them happening here at New Hampshire, will take place and give them the benefit of the doubt. Robinson will look again on Moreno in what's going to be this battle for P6. Michael Walls slowly creeping up the board, but up at the front of this field, the gap continues to grow between the first and second place cars. It'll be 2 miles to go for AJ Hyder from New Hampshire.
And crucially for the points, one more thing is as you get into the back end of the Eliminator Chase, if you're a guy like AJ Hyder, who is currently top 6 in points, he plans to be a part of that Finale 6, your 2 best races are going to be scored at double points. A win will certainly be among those 2 best races. This could be huge for AJ Hyder's championship run.
Last time Hyder achieved victory was when he won the Safe Driver Shootout at Slinger Speedway several weeks ago, and in sort of an all-star format. He told us it was just nice to get back into the winning circle. Didn't care whether it counted for points or not. The winning feeling still felt just as good as it did when he took the checkered flag at Iowa Speedway. And after a strategy call that put this 48 into the front, he has seemingly never looked back. And 2 more corners will separate AJ Hyder from a secondary win of 2025. Final charge here from Loudon, New Hampshire, and the win is in the hands for AJ Hyder. Win number 2 of 2025 comes from Loudon.
What a job from AJ Hyder on that last run to get the top spot and hold off everybody fighting behind him. And it was a hard charge from Thurston there at the end as well. Really impressive run from him. Back-to-back weeks almost playing spoiler.
A masterful job from AJ Hyder as James Thurston did give him a shot for his money. He's spinning out of turn 2. Thurston just 0.6 of a second back, gave it all that he got in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Maggio ends up filing out the top 3, but a winning moment once again for the 48 car. Hasn't seen a victory that gave any sort of points in several months, and although he's been close, has not been able to capture the charm until tonight. Race winner for the 2nd time this year, and probably at its most pivotal time, Nate. Whether it be a playoff format or a points format like this in the postseason, any amounts of wins at this juncture of the season will come at the right time. Celebrations for Hyder. 2nd win of the year comes from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Tolling damage at all. He'll burn it down on the front straightaway. And what a drive from the 48 car. Even though he had been in clean air for most of that last run, didn't falter, didn't flinch. And in the moment when he did take the lead from Jafari, that was all that he needed to stretch his legs and be right back out at the front of this field with a chance to control. And control he did. AJ Hyder, the winner here from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. As we'll get a look at the unofficial results after the 111 laps run, for the most part, green flag in this second half. Hyder the winner. James Thurston trying to get a back-to-back win. After stealing the show at Darlington last Thursday, he has to rally back for a second-place effort. Stephen Maggio, after the nightmare of the last several races, he will return to a third-place finish. Connor Trafari continues a consistent run for P4. Guillermo Tahari inside the top 5. Andretti Robinson, great run for the 45 machine as he finishes in P6. With Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the current points leader, should maintain that points gap heading into the next race at Road America as he finishes 7th here tonight. Michael Walls came into this race minus 13 from the playoff cut line. Should have a chance to at least extend his gap above that cut going into Road America, or at least a chance within single digits to move above the top 12. With Shockey Tarpley desperately needing a good race tonight, a good race is what he accomplished. P9 with Ollie Reeves behind him in P10.
Yeah, then back to the top 20. Cody Riveras, he came into this one 31 points above the cut line, a solid 11th place finish for him. Jamie Wright, he spun early, bounced back to finish in 12th. Duncan Faw was involved in, I think, 2 of those first 4 or 5 wrecks at the start of this race, so he bounces back to finish 13th. Wyatt Roberts, another driver, came in above the cut line, a great run for him to establish some more space. Traver Burns in 15th. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, he was really quiet in this race, a little abnormal for the 00. He's going to fall a little bit away from Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Amir Bascombe, he needed a good run to get out of the hole in the playoff standings. He finishes 17th. Alexander Schumacher in 18th. Connor Zola, and then Larry Miles, who is just barely on the cut line, finishes 20th. We'll see where he nets out.
Back in 21st is Declan George. He's one of the first cars a lap down alongside Austin Braun. Fidel Fabian ends up 23rd with Brad Sawinski in 24th. And Donovan David in the top 25. James Bomar 26th. And several of these guys that had their races end early. Nicholas Borowski, Ryan Jones, and Christopher Robinson bring us the 29-car field that completes tonight's event from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So let's bring in the race winner here from New Hampshire, and it is AJ Hyder in dominating fashion through this last half. AJ, a big-time win given this Eliminator chase format and where you stood going into tonight's event. How much of a relief is it to be able to execute in those final few laps, take the win, and now all those points will go to you heading into Road America?
Yeah, it's awesome. I really didn't think I'd be in this position starting the race. I didn't have any long run speed or short run speed. It just felt like that entire first half of the run, we were completely off. I just couldn't figure this place out. I caused a little bit of an incident before that, so I just want to say sorry to Shockey about that. I know I ruined his race, but there's nothing I could do. I locked up immediately going into 3. But yeah, we timed that green flag pit stop right. We were able to get by Moreno at one point in that run, and when that caution came out, I knew I had to stay out or try something different, because there was just no way I'd be able to get by them without some restart happening, and that's what we were able to do. Got by Connor. He got a little loose coming off 2 or 4 or whatever, I don't know, but yeah, we were able to get by him, and it was just smooth sailing there. It was about hitting my marks, making sure I didn't make a mistake, and yeah, that's what we were able to do. Just glad to get one.
How pivotal was a win like this given the schedule that we'll have next, because you finished second in our last road course event at Sonoma Raceway that you participated in. We saw Portland obviously later on, but we know that you're a force to be reckoned with on that discipline of racetrack. How important will this win be to continue that momentum and try to chase over that points lead as we get into the longest road course that we'll see this year?
They counted me out, but I'm not dead yet. That's all I got to say.
It's a hard charge effort. The shark is starting to feed on the prey up ahead. AJ, a huge win tonight from Loudon, New Hampshire. And now as we continue this Eliminator chase format, what's the mindset other than just winning more races? What is it going to take discipline-wise to stay ahead and maintain the amount of points that you can carry until the finale at Auto Club?
Just keep doing what we're doing. That's all we got to do, and that's really it.
Well, AJ, hitting the marks, that's consistency at its all-time high, and that's what you put in tonight to get the win. AJ, before we let you go, anybody that you want to give a thanks to or shout out for tonight's dub?
Yeah, I just want to shout out everyone at Spartan Motorsports, everyone at Outlier Speedco, Express Esports, brought another bad, fast DuPont Chevy to victory lane, and yeah, just hoping you can keep this momentum up going.
That's AJ Hyder taking the victory on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network. AJ, congrats on the victory here from New Hampshire. Go celebrate it. We'll see you at Road America next week.
All right, thanks, Kenneth.
AJ Hyder with his second points-paying victory of the 2025 season, and he does it in dominating fashion over the strategy after taking the lead from Connor Trafari, stepped away, and stepped out in front of the field. Let's toss into James Thurston, who finishes P2 tonight from New Hampshire. Nate Polite, you've got him.
James, congratulations on another podium finish, a P2 today. How on earth did you save that race car after the contact with Stephen Maggio on that last run?
I don't know really. I guess I've got a little bit of a thing for saving this car. I mean, I did it last week on the last lap and we won, and this week we did not come out on such a fortunate end. Yeah, I really thought we were gonna have a good shot there with the win. I had about 10 lap fresher tires or so than the leaders. I was catching AJ there, even passing the two behind him. And I think Maggio had some sort of problem getting into 3. I can only imagine. I don't think he would have done that on purpose. But, yeah, so I get hit up the track. And, yeah, that was a hell of a save looking back at that. But, yeah, we galloped it back up. And I think we still could have won the race if I could have got back going quicker. I really do. But I didn't. And we did get back to second. But I was just making too many mistakes driving the car way too hard. And I honestly got closer there to Hyder in the last corner than I thought I would. If I would have known how much that would have got me close to him, I honestly would have sent it in there harder and try to nudge him a little bit. Not sure if that would have ended too well. But yeah, I mean, it's a second place. We'll take it. Obviously, we're here for wins, though.
And you mentioned being here for wins. You played spoiler last week, nearly did it again this week. Does not being in the chase impact, 1, how you battle the guys that are in the chase, and 2, how you call your strategy? You made a pretty gutsy call to put on fresh tires under the caution, something that we were a little on the fence about in the booth. It turned out to be a pretty good call, of course. But does not being in the chase impact that kind of thing?
I think the race that I just ran should speak for itself. You know, I race hard. I race how I would any other race. I don't race them any differently, and that doesn't mean that I race them super hard and you know, try to wreck them, unless you're a lap car that won't get out of my way. But you know, I keep it respectful among the guys that I know are going for the win, and especially if they're going for a championship. You know, towards the end of this thing, I might give them some more leeway. Obviously, I'm still here to go for wins, but I'm definitely not looking to be the reason why somebody loses a championship. That's not what I'm here to do. But, you know, just go out there, have fun, and as long as I'm fast, I'm having fun. So, it's been pretty good so far.
Absolutely. And you were one of the few to really make the apron work. What advantage were you able to find down there?
Well, I learned it really mostly in the Xfinity car and open setup racing. It works much better with those two. This setup, it seemed like it was working really, really well, and I thought that I was going to go up there and grab the lead with it the first run, and it seemed like it was really just tearing the right front up more than I thought it was. And so that's kind of what I started struggling with there towards the end of that. But it seems like there's just a little bit more grip there if you know where to use it and how to use it. That's really why I like this track so much. It's honestly probably my favorite track. As far as, you know, the low bank tracks go, like flat tracks wise, this is definitely my favorite track in NASCAR. Just so many options. You can run up high, you can run all the way on the apron towards the grass. Just whatever you want to do, you can do it here. This car obviously can get finicky with the lines that it is in. If you kind of put it between seams, where it's like, you know, a low bank section and a high bank section, it'll jump out on you. But it's still fun here. Yeah. Just I really wish we could have won that, man. Could have made it 2 in a row.
But before we let you take off here, is there anyone that you'd like to shout out for your race here today?
Just thanks to Power Smash Infinity Speed Motorsports, 623 Speedworks. Just you know, man, going out here and going fast. Hopefully we'll go even faster next week.
Awesome. Congratulations again on the second place finish.
Thank you.
As James Thurston comes home P2 tonight from Loudon, New Hampshire, we'll check in with the third place finishing driver. That is, of course, New York's Stephen Maggio. And what a comeback that was, Steven, from the early race struggles to what it ended up being at the end of it, a third place finish, given all that went down. How much of a relief was it when you finally got the tires right, you got the track position right, and the strategy seemed to be right in your palms? Steven, you got a copy with us?
Oh, apologies, I was muted.
All good.
Yeah, just got lucky. I mean, lucky that caution came out. I've had really bad luck recently, and finally something fell my way. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't get. I got busy tonight, and I didn't get to do any practice, which I really wanted to because I stink here, and I've only ever ran here once, and it was 4 wide that you guys broadcasted, and I crashed and DNF'd. So I had really not a lot of practice for this race, and didn't get to do any before the race. I went in, I qualified 9th. And then, yeah, I think it was up 3 or whatever, and Trafari just spins me out. And, you know, of course, there's just radio silence after that, so that's always awesome. Get spun out by a guy and just doesn't even have the integrity to apologize for it or anything. And then I was just in the back, and you're with the squirrels when you're back there. I mean, I got front end damage on 2 separate wrecks, and then I have to go back and look what happened with me and Ryan because we had a misunderstanding. I thought I was gonna go low, and I guess he was going low to let me by, and yeah, I ended up spinning. So then I just kept pitting and fueling up, and we got that long run. So I just stayed out and was hoping for a yellow, and it fell. And I can't believe that at New Hampshire, people were pitting and coming out in front of me still. I guess I was just really that slow back there. And yeah, so they all stayed out under that caution because they were on the lead lap, and I took tires, and I felt like I did a really good job driving through the field there. I made a really nice 3-wide move around Gabriel and Ethan in turns 3 and 4 one lap, and got up to 2nd, or I guess I got up to 3rd, but Trafari was really holding me up, and then I spun Thurston, and I felt so bad about that. I still feel bad about that. Not how I want to race, just made an honest mistake. I hadn't really been up front the whole race, and I hadn't been on the inside passing anyone that whole run. I did every pass on the outside, and I just drove it in too deep and I spun him. I'm really happy he saved it and was able to drive back and get 2nd. I wish I could have seen what he could have done if I didn't do that, because I think he would have gone up there and battled AJ, and that maybe would have helped me. And obviously I just don't want to spin him in the first place because I feel like I might have cost him a chance at the win. But yeah, I just rambled, but that was pretty much my whole race.
Obviously, a lot that went down between being at the back of the beginning portion of this race and then having to slowly crawl your way through. New Hampshire, like Thurston and a couple of others that we've talked to, have mentioned to us how unique it is to drive. You know, several drivers on the apron. You and a couple of others were playing with those middle grooves. What about it that you were trying to learn throughout the, especially long green flag runs of this race, to find where that sweet spot was under a long run at New Hampshire, where there seemingly are multiple options?
I don't know if I ever figured it out. Like I said, I just kind of stunk tonight. I was really slow. I mean, I was so slow that people were able to pit and still come out ahead of me. I felt like after I got to 3rd, if I had just gotten around Trafari way quicker, I might have had a chance to do something. I don't know what, but I felt like when I got to 4th with how fresher my tires were, I should have won. Like if I was good enough, I should have won that race. And I just wasn't good enough. I haven't figured this track out. It's a terrible track for me, and I don't know if I ever figured it out. So I guess I just had to take 3rd. But yeah, I feel like if I knew what I was doing, I would have won that race.
Nonetheless, a 3rd place finish will move you up in point standings. You move up a spot overall. You're going to be 3rd in the overall Eliminator Chase standings going into the road course at Road America. I know for road courses, not entirely the best discipline for you, but you have a chance to look ahead given the fact that there are so many more races to go, and you're going to be well above that cut line for elimination. So where does your mind go in that sense to strategize the maximum amount of points that you can gain every given weekend and the tracks that could give you the best boost?
Yeah, just doing everything you can. Like I said, tonight I really stunk. I still came out with a 3rd, so you just got to manage your race. I mean, I was in the back, so I mean, I could have tried to split it and like maybe gained a couple of spots, but I was like, I just got to do the risk versus reward here. Like, is 18th really a lot worse than finishing 15th? But if the caution comes out, then I'm in a great spot, and that's what ended up happening, and I finished 3rd. So, you just gotta stay in it and don't follow the leader. I guess just try to do anything you can to get yourself off cycle and give chance of luck to operate and keep getting good finishes. That's how I did it last season. Just I really didn't win the whole season, and I just had a really good run in the playoffs and was able to get a win or two at the end and was able to be the champion.
Always about getting hot at the right time. That's true on all fronts. Steven, a big-time third-place finish. On behalf of all of us, want to congratulate you on the finish first and foremost. But before we let you bounce, anybody that you want to thank for tonight's run?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys in the booth. You always do a great job, and I'll watch the race back. And thank you to Cody for running the league, and he puts a lot of effort and money into this league, so I really appreciate that from him. And shout out to my teammates. You know, I got me, Gabriel, Micah, Justin. I don't think raced tonight, but Jurg was here, and Duncan, and I don't know. I think that's about it. Thank you guys. Have a good one. God bless.
Well, Steven, we appreciate the time. Congrats on the third-place finish. We'll see you in the field at Road America next Thursday.
Thank you.
Steven Maggio ends up with P3 tonight from the Magic Mile in New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Obviously, still some frustrations from a night that really took him for a whirl. Nate, he was at the back for most of it, had to find the right strategy, and when he did make the good use of it, but ultimately just ends up in a third-place effort. So now, what this does is puts us in a fun point situation heading into the road course at Road America. This is where we stand, and it's a new points leader at the top of the table. Gabriel Dahari, after finishing 5th tonight, he'll be in control of the Eliminator chase standings. Michael Walls, we saw him with a top 10 effort tonight, finishing in 8th. He's still below the cut line, but he's only 1 point out from Shockey Tarpley, who ended up also with a 9th place finish and a top 10 run here from New Hampshire. So Nate, as we get into the eliminating race at Road America, not only is it a tricky road course up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, but a chance for some of those drivers at the bottom to shine and some of those at the top maybe to topple.
Absolutely. There's a lot of points that you can lose, and look at how close 8th on back are inside of 20 points to the cut line, and that is going to be something really fun to watch next week when we go to Road America. Michael Walls, again, what a job. He came to this one minus 13, and he was able to drive up, put in a good finish. You know, last week was a disaster. He was one of those guys that he was involved in accidents and ended up finishing toward the back. Gets a great finish here in New Hampshire and sets himself up really well to try to advance.
A great comeback for Walls. He's going to try and piggyback off of that momentum and take on Road America next Thursday night. And it'll be a pair of road course racing. We're going to be road course ringers on the KBueno Racing Network next week as we take on the month of October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. On October 1st, Wednesday, 9:10 p.m. Eastern is where you'll find coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the virtual circuit Gilles Villeneuve up in Montreal, Canada. That'll be a fun race for you. 8:35 p.m. Eastern for the 1,000 Islands Correct pre-race show. Then our race coverage at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. Then for the SAAC Cup Series, returning to road course racing at Road America up in the heart of Wisconsin. That coverage will begin for you at 8:35 p.m. Eastern as we try to decide who will be the winner, who will be the 4 that will go home after the elimination kicks in for the top 16. Well, that'll do it for us at the KBueno Racing Network for our event tonight from the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A huge thank you to Cody Riveras and the entire admin team at the SAAC Cup Series for making this series go round, and for all of the wonderful people at the KBueno Racing Network. For Keelan Belsa, Charlie Byer, Eli Comerford, and for my crew in the broadcast tonight, our good friend Francisco Bacallao and my friend Nate Polite, I am Kenneth Bueno, saying so long from Loudon, lobster in hand for AJ Hyder, second win of 2025.